My name is Vince Delicio, and every week our amazing team brainstorms on ideas, ultimately deciding on one topic to build the show, with a little help from people in the community, coming together to answer one question, one topic. This week, that one topic is work-life balance. You'll hear from the experts. We hope you enjoy the next 20 minutes. Welcome to Overtime.
All right, everyone, welcome to the Overtime Podcast. I'm your host, Evan Rodriguez. I'm here with my guest, Kyle Wright. He was a student athlete a couple years back. He went to Walla Walla Community College, JUCO in Washington. Kyle, if you want to introduce yourself and how that was.
Yeah, my name's Kyle Wright. Like Evan said, I went to Walla Walla Community College. I played baseball, and I did school there. And yeah, so I played baseball all the way through high school, and then I also played at Walla Walla Community College. Now I'm finishing up my degree in econ and finance here at Grand Canyon University in Phoenix, Arizona. And I've known Evan for a long time, and so he's known me through sports and all that stuff growing up. So yeah.
Yeah, great to have you.
Yeah.
And Kyle, how were you able to blend in together your stuff working with like school plus training plus also your games?
So one thing that helped me was obviously playing in high school. When you're in high school, you have to be a student athlete, but once you get to college, it gets even worse because a normal day in the life for me looked like I usually had some either practice or lift before school too. So we'd go before school, we'd go to class for a couple hours, whether it was online or in person, then we'd have practice after class. And it was really hard for me to time manage at first because you kind of just don't want to do any schoolwork when you have that amount of sports. But over time, your grades might get a little bit worse, and it just all comes down to you got to get your stuff done. You don't have that much free time, but when you're a college athlete, you have to make sacrifices and you have to get everything done, or else if you don't have good grades, you can't play. So
Yeah, definitely. And would your professors or like coaches give you any flexibility at all because you were a student athlete?
yeah, there were definitely situations where, so in the NWAC, which is the conference the JUCOs play at in the Northwest, we play doubleheaders on Wednesdays and Saturdays. So on Wednesdays, I had classes. So we would have situations where I would have to miss class for sure to go play games. So yeah, deadlines wouldn't really be extended. If it was due Sunday at midnight, I really wouldn't get an opportunity to, have an extension for that. But yeah, if something came up during the week on Wednesday, for sure, during in season, I would get opportunities to, have a couple extra days to get those in.
Okay, yeah, sweet.
Yeah.
And then final question I have for you today. What was it like doing schoolwork while you were like traveling to different road games for different road
Um,
games?
it was pretty bad. We would have times where we'd have we'd be on the road the entire weekend, so we would never once it was like Thursday afternoon, you wouldn't have a chance to go back to campus. So yeah, it sucked like doing a lot of online work on the road. You really get good at like doing stuff 3 to 4 days before a deadline. I would say that because if I was on the road for a trip for games, I would not want to do any schoolwork. But
Mhm.
sometimes there's unavoidable stuff, and sometimes you have to do like discussion boards on your phone or stuff like that, like just stuff that other people normally wouldn't have to do, and it sucks. It honestly did suck. And then with certain like COVID restrictions and stuff, we would have to like do online work, and that sucked in general. So
All right. That's going to do it for the Overtime Podcast. Again, Kyle,
yes,
thanks for
sir.
helping us out.
Yes, sir.
Tune in with Vince Deligio every Monday, streaming on all
Let's
platforms.
go.
And
Go tune in. Go.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sebastian Kupis from Arizona State University. On the Overtime podcast here this week, I'm joined by my cousin Samantha Kupis. But for the next 5 minutes, she's going to be everyone's favorite podcast guest. Sam, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. We're just talking a little bit about students like work-life balance this week and how they overcome that and everything. And I know you obviously do a pretty prominent sport up where you live. So if you want to tell the guests maybe what is that big sport you play for Team Canada?
Yeah, sure. I am a member of the Canadian national jump rope team, and I'm going to be competing at the World Championships in Japan in July 2025.
And what's the kind of like calendar year, like schedule wise going for you, like doing that stuff like year round and everything?
Yeah, so typically we start our competitive season in September, where we start choreographing routines and running drills for speed events and competitions usually start February, go through till July, which is the World Championships. We usually have the open competition, provincials, nationals, and then the World Championships. So 3 to 4 competitions a year.
And how far are those like spaced out between the year and everything?
Um, so let's say the open would be February, provincials are April, nationals are in May, and then world championships in the summer, July, August.
Dang, okay. That definitely does sound like a lot. What else do you do besides your sport? I know you have like at home stuff. Do you go to work or anything, or do you go to school or anything?
Yeah. I'm currently on a gap year, so I'm just working part-time, 3 to 4 days a week. But last year I was a full-time student working part-time, training for the World Championship. So I know it's hard to balance, but to do the sport I love, it's worth it.
With a busy schedule like that, do you have any sort of advice for other athletes that maybe be coming up to more prominent events in their life or having to deal with more responsibilities like work and school, like you were talking about?
Um, it's definitely just like don't put anything on the back burner. You just got to keep a tight schedule. Like book certain times off during the day for like work and school, and then certain times for training. Yeah.
And how often do you practice during the week, and how long do those end up going usually?
Um, Currently because I am not in school, I have a little bit more time. So I'm practicing 3 times a week for like 3 to 5 hours, and then I'm doing like strength training on the side twice a week for about an hour.
And would you be able to quickly take us through like a typical practice, like what you guys usually end up doing in that 3 to 5 hours?
Yeah. So my team and we usually start off with like a good 15 to 20 minute warm up, doing dynamic stretching and everything like that. Then we run some warm ups and drills for double Dutch speed before we run the events 3 or 4 times. So that usually takes us about like an hour on double Dutch speed alone. And then from there we just either work on new skills or combos for routines, or just um, at this point where it's competition season, we're just running our routines and trying to make them as clean as possible. So we run every like freestyle event upwards of 3 times because there are a lot. I'm qualified for 10 events at the World Championships, so um, you can't do too much or else your body will hate you. But yeah.
Do you feel the workload growing more with like the more popularity the sport has?
Definitely. I've also with the growth of the sport and especially where I live in Hamilton, jump rope's gotten a lot bigger and there's more of a demand for like coaching. So aside from all of my practicing, I'm coaching upwards of 6 hours a week as well. So
Jeez.
yeah.
Well, at least you're helping like the new generation of athletes. That really does sound fun. Just last question. We really wanted to like focus on like how like athletes go between like the work-life balance and putting themselves like fully into the sport. Is there anything you do like outside of jump roping or skipping to sort of like calm yourself down, whether it's with your friends or your family or by yourself, like any sort of like side hobbies or anything?
Yeah. I definitely try to take the time for myself to like sit down with a cup of tea in the morning or before bed just to like relax and like I also make sure I set aside time after practices and everything to stretch and just like oh like uh think think through how the practice went, what we can do better, and give my body the rest it needs. Yeah.
Well, I hope some athletes listening to this or parents listening to this can take that into effect and help their kids or themselves going forward with their sport. I want to thank you again so much for joining me tonight on this episode of the Overtime Podcast for Arizona Varsity Sports Show. And just to let everyone at home know to tune into the Varsity Sports Show Overtime Podcast with host Vince Delicio, streaming on Spotify, YouTube, and all major platforms every Monday. Stay in the game with the latest in high school and college sports and follow us on Instagram and X. Search Varsity Sports Show for all the action, hit that follow button, and never miss a play. Thanks, Sam, for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, welcome to the Varsity Sports Show Overtime Podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Singer, and we are here with Malexa Cardona, former Howard University volleyball player and current Cronkite sports journalist at ASU. So, Malexa, being a collegiate athlete is no easy job. How did you balance being an athlete and a student?
Well, I think that Howard and like every institution that I have played at prior to, um, when you come in as a freshman, they kind of set what it's supposed to look like, and then from there you kind of like tweak it to your liking on your like day-to-day schedule. But when you have so many things that you have to check off your checklist every day, like it just you get into a routine because you can't miss meetings, you can't miss practice, you can't miss weights, you can't miss film, you can't miss class. So once you get your class schedule, you get your practice times, you just kind of gotta hit off all the boxes.
And how did you balance athletics and just your social life, being with your family, your friends, all of that stuff when you were in college?
I think it comes down to priority. I know some people don't really care about having a social life, and some people are really into just having good grades. Some people don't really care about their grades and just really care about like performing well on the court or field or whatever. I prioritized all of them because I like wanted to enjoy my collegiate experience, but I felt like I could not enjoy my collegiate experience if I wasn't doing all of those things. So I just kind of made sure that I was organizing my schedule to where I had time to do everything that I wanted to do.
And now that you are a sports journalist at Cronkite, how have your methods changed for maintaining your work-life balance?
Um, they kind of haven't. I kind of took that from being a college athlete and kind of brought that into Cronkite, which is why I am always so busy because I never know how to just like sit still. So I work two jobs, I go to school full time. So those habits that I developed in college, I use in my everyday life now.
All right. And then what advice would you give to student athletes on how to balance work and school?
I would tell them to definitely just prioritize and to understand that you only have those set of like, we'll say 4 years for the sake of art, for the sake of conversation, but you only have those 4 years to be in college and to really truly just like lock in and prioritize what you're supposed to prioritize. And half of the time, the work is just showing up, like just showing up to class, just showing up to be with your friends, just showing up to be in those spaces. And more times than not, like that will just be enough because, like, if you're in class and you're just listening, you're going to retain something. Like no, like you don't have to give 200% every day. Like that is exhausting, but give what you can every day. And I think that in that you will find some sort of success.
And then what advice would you give to student athletes on how to balance work and like social time, time with your family, time with your friends?
Um, just do it, honestly. Like you're gonna be tired. You're gonna be tired every single day. You're gonna feel like it doesn't matter like how many hours of sleep you get, you're still going to be absolutely exhausted. So you just kind of have to like wake up, get out of bed and do it. The same way that you have to force yourself to go to practice some days because you have to, or you're not going to be on the team, lose your scholarship. It's the same thing that you have to do with your friends. I know a lot of times, like I used to just want to be like chill and be like, no, like I'm good. But college goes by really, really fast. So that was one thing that used to just get me out of bed and go out with my friends to like do that social time because I knew like, all right, I'm gonna graduate. Like graduation comes up, like it creeps up on you pretty fast. So you just gotta get up and you just gotta do stuff.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. Tune into the Varsity Sports Show's Overtime podcast with host Vince DeLizio, streaming in on Spotify, YouTube, and other major platforms on Mondays. Stay in the game with the latest on high school and college sports. And follow us on Instagram and X. Search
varsity sports show. For all the action, hit that follow button and never miss a play.
Again for tuning in to the Overtime Podcast. This week, on behalf of our co-hosts, Sebastian Kupis, Matthew Singer, and Evan Rodriguez from Arizona State University, my name is Vince Delicio, and you've been watching and listening to the Overtime Podcast. See you next time.